Hey, welcome to Tell Us Something. David Michael Sojourn-Dupuis was born on the ever-oppressing heat and humidity of Northeast Florida. Therefore, he likes hot weather. He enjoyed running more as a child than he does as an adult, and feels that the educational infrastructure really never understood him. If it took the time to do so, maybe things could be different. Please welcome David Michael Sojourn-Dupuis.
Hello, people of chosen and respected identities. So my story begins in 2012. I'm 23 or 24, depending on your interpretation of the Roman calendar. And I also live in Jacksonville, Florida. It's taken me about 4 or 5 years, again, depending on your interpretation of the Roman calendar, to finish community college. And I feel a lot like Holden Caulfield. I think that everybody is a phony, and I just can't make sense of life. My father's disabled, and my mother is leaving him for many a good reason, but all of which still make me sad. A lot of my peers have graduated college at this time, yet they still work at the same jobs they were working during, except they're saddled with an incredible debt. So I have what is called a panic attack, or what I guess some people would consider a moment of clarity, and I freaked out and decided that I wanted to leave my 2 roommates, one who was obsessed with sports and the other who was obsessed with music, and both argued all the time and how each of their lives were pointless, and I argued that everything was pointless and meaningless. So I decided to just get out. My parents never did. In fact, they came from upstate New York and settled in Jacksonville, Florida, and pretty much never left unless they went to Disney World or SeaWorld or any other godforsaken vacation that you could take for 3-4 days to a week in a hotel. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave. I wanted to experience. And I had a friend of mine in community college who was a park ranger in Maryland. And every summer he would go and do that, and it sounded fun, and I remember that, and I was like, that sounds fun. So I tried applying for that, but park rangers require a college degree, and as you know, it took me about 4 or 5 years to not finish community college, so I decided to not do that. By luck and by grace of God, to which I can't determine either or, I somehow stumbled upon Xanterra at Yellowstone National Park, which many of you no doubt are familiar with, but as a Floridian, I'd never been west of the Mississippi, so that just looked like pictures and shit. And I was like, all right, I could do that. I can get paid, I could live there for however long, and it could be exciting, and whatever. As long as I don't have passive suicidal thoughts anymore, and I'm not working at Best Buy, I think it'll be okay. So I applied in what was probably the easiest application I've ever filled out in my life. For a job at Yellowstone. Unfortunately, I got an email back that said, sorry, they, we already got people, better luck next time. I was like, damn, I was really excited about that, and I started letting the fantasies go to my head. And then they called me 2 weeks later in the middle of this never-ending cycle, and they were like, guess what? We're out of people. We need you to come here and be here in a month. Can you do that? I know you're from Florida, but can you do that? And I'm like, yeah. So I did, and what I found out when they said they were out of people, what that really meant was that there were too many college people drinking and smoking pot, and they had to fire those people so that they could hire more people. And then what I also found out later was that I was one of other many people who had no qualification to work, like a bunch of homeless winos in Salt Lake City that they rounded up in buses to get to the park so you people can come in on your RVs and SUVs and stay in the lodgings and eat the crappy food so they could work. So you had a bunch of homeless Salt Lake City people there. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm doing it. I get out of my apartment, and I realize that even though I'm 23, still struggling in a community college and working at Best Buy, I have amassed just a lot of crap that I cannot get rid of so easily. So in a month, I realized that even being poor in this society, you will accumulate just garbage that will chain you down. and I got rid of that garbage amount. So I got a plane ticket to Bozeman, and from Bozeman they would pick me up and take me to Yellowstone. At the time, my parents were going through a divorce because my father was disabled and for a long time was hooked on narcotics because of a degenerative spine disease that he had, and then also not graduating high school and just really being born in the society. And to my mother's benefit, she was hardworking. She went to school the entire time that she worked and raised kids, and it was just inspiring, but at the same time, all of it was just very sad and I want to stay away from it. So, got a ride to the airport for my parents, and my parents said something that was really depressing and I'll never forget, and it was, "I'm proud of you, you were doing something I had never thought of or would ever do." And that made me sad because they were still breathing and still alive and could still do anything they really wanted to, but didn't. So I left, I went to Bozeman, I stayed in a hostel, I found myself being alone and traveling for the first time. Many of you have done this. To me, it was scary and it was exciting, and for the first time I realized it was the better points of existing. Just experiencing things without the safety net of money or parents or really anything. So I finally made my way to Yellowstone, and Yellowstone's a huge national park. It's hours in driving between any of the locations. It's just huge, like side of Rhode Island or whatever. I finally get to the location that I'm working at, and I realized that an ex-girlfriend from Florida is there. Her name is Azalea, and she goes by Z, and she is an incredible person, even to this day. But I haven't talked to her in 5 years, and she must have found out about it through the friends that I was living with because I was so freaking excited about getting out of Jacksonville that I told everybody. And she was there. She was also married at the time, too. And to complicate things, I lost my virginity to her, as if that ever means anything. But I loved her, and she was one of the first people that I've ever met that saw things beyond gender, saw things beyond race. And again, I'm from Florida, so people are still very bigoted and very religious. And she was mixed. She was half black, half white, and it took a long time for my family and other people to appreciate it. But it was one of the first people that I could ever expose myself to. And it was amazing. Anyhow, we get to Yellowstone, and she's there. Not only is she working in the same department, but she lives in the same dorm, and we're just stuck, and I haven't said anything to her. And the first week of Yellowstone, in June, it's really cold. Yellowstone in June is still really cold. Florida all the time is hot and really hot. So it was probably the first winter I've ever experienced, even though it was in the summer. And they're snow everywhere. So when you're a week in Yellowstone with like no cell service and very limited Wi-Fi, you're like, I want to go on Yellowstone, I want to do the Yellowstone thing. But it's either snow or wet. So we're like, first weekend, everyone's getting excited, days off are coming off, and it's like, let's go to Avalanche Peak. It's on the other side of Yellowstone Lake. It's about 11,000 feet. It's a great hike, only like 2 hours. And it's covered in snow. At the time, a bunch of people get in. Of the people, there's like 4 Irish tourists that are there, and they're illegally staying in the dorms because we're just awesome and we can do that and fun. And I go, Z goes, a couple people go, including the EDR chef, which is employee dining room chef. His name is Bo. Employee dining room chef is a funny position because it's all institutionalized food that's brought in on trucks with a lot of preservatives, so it makes you pretty much have diarrhea every time you eat. So anytime the employee dining room chef would cook for the employees, you would have diarrhea, and then you would also have to battle not getting pissed at the person you lived with for being the employee dining room chef, which was Bo, and he was also a really nice guy. So we get to Avalanche, it's snowing, the Irish kids do not have boots. Bo's like, hey man, I got trash bags and duct tape, I'm gonna wrap your feet, because that's what I do. And Irish kids love that. So we're all there, we get excited, we're going on the hike, we're marching up. Avalanche is just like a straight up hike, and we're just hiking, blah, blah, blah. And the cool thing about Yellowstoners, which is employees that live in Yellowstone, is that for a lot of times they don't have their iPod, they're not listening to music. It's not about getting away, they're already away, so they're experiencing things with new people. It's not about, you don't have to get away if you're already away. It's kind of hard to explain. But, so we're hiking up, and we get to like a false peak, and everything's in snow, And at the false peak, we realized at the actual peak, shit, I only have like 50 seconds. All right, speed up. All right. So we get to the false peak and we realize that it's a snowstorm or clouds passing through and it's white out. And it's really cold. It's the coldest I've ever been. So as we're going up, following everybody in line, I realize that my camelback is frozen and then other people's water bottles are frozen within like several minutes. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. This is cool. And we get everybody together, and it's really cold, and the cacophony of the wind is just making it hard to hear, so you gotta yell at people. And then all of a sudden we sit down, we want to eat because we're on a peak, and that's what you do when you climb a peak. You get on a peak, you stay on a peak, you chill on a peak. Even though it's a brief affair, that's the whole reason why you're there. So we're up there, and basically what happens, my friend Bo, the chef EDR, is like, hey David, you want to eat Oreo? Because he's hanging on like these rocks. And to get from the wind on the peak, you can't be on the peak, you gotta slide down from when the wind's going. So that means you gotta go down on the peak where all the ice is. It's dangerous. Anyways, I reach for an Oreo and I end up slipping and almost falling off the mountain. And it was scary because when I looked up, I remember seeing all their faces and nobody moved. It was so cold that not only did your water freeze, but people were slow to react. So as I'm like hanging on a rock that is trembling with my hands, feeling like a rotten tooth about to just yank out from its socket, I look up and I see Bo and my ex-girlfriend and just these Irish people, and they all have this look like, oh fuck, you're dead. Like, so I pull myself up, and then everyone jokes about it. I eat the goddamn Oreo, never eat Oreo again. And then we go down the mountain, and the three things I'll never forget about that experience is, one, it was the first time Azalea Z had talked to me about 5 years. And the first thing she said to me, because we haven't spoken the entire time in Yellowstone, was that she said, David, I'm glad you're alive. And I know that seems stupid because that was a really childish thing for me to do, to reach for an Oreo when I could have went around or whatever and not reach for it. It would be nice because, you know, so many times you let bad relationships or just relationships that end badly really dog down the importance of life, which is like connecting. And okay, so we get down to the point, to the false peak, and then Bo takes off his snowboard that he has the whole time, and he snowboards down, and then we all just basically tuck our jackets into our pants and dive down the slope of the mountain where all the snow is. And have you ever like just went down snow without anything, just down snow with your clothing and your backpacks? It's fun, and it's the first time in a long time that I ever heard young adults scream with joy like children. And it was the most happiest times of my life. And I guess what I thought when I was becoming an adult is that I would never hear adults be as happy as children. And to that, I was wrong at that experience, and hopefully in the future I will still be wrong, because even adults can still have fun, I guess. Thank you for love you all. Have a good night. Be kind to one another.